Yay. All right. Uh-oh. Hey, Jim, would you please give me back the host? I gave you host rather than co-host, and I've lost all the ability to change things here. Ha. Ah, there we go. Thank you. Please go ahead and mute yourselves, if you'd be so kind, if you haven't already. All right. Well, good morning. I am the person who calls himself Robert P.D., the collection of aggregates that identifies with that name. And I am broadcasting to you from eastern Beaverton on the west coast of the United States, almost. This is a broadcast, a gathering of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, which is 12 miles that way. And we're close to day 99, I think, of these broadcasts. It's been quite a while. Started with the COVID-19 closures. No, COVID-19. And we'll continue. And here we are now. Hello to those of you joining us on YouTube and Facebook. It's rainy here. Garden loves it. We're having spinach for dinner tonight. Our spinach has just gone nuts. It's quite lovely. So a brief, powerful poem from Rumi this morning. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the doorsill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. From the 12th century. We humans have been working at getting it together for a long time. Long enough that this chant is 2,600 years old. Please join me. Allergies. Please join me as it makes sense to you. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Back half a year ago when I had my brain surgery, I had a terrible drug reaction and was pretty psychotic. No mindfulness. The one thing that I could find was I take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. Didn't know what it meant, but I remembered it to be very important. So let us do the ancient ritual, the ritual of stopping. Stopping and being awake. It's very decidedly not stopping and going off into fantasy land. What daydream can I follow today? It's how intimate can I be with life in this moment? And what is it that we encounter? If we dare to wake up in this moment. There is this body. In the realm of mind, or between mind and body, there's the phenomenon we call mood. We awaken from sleep, and there's often a mood present. And we can pull that mood on as an identity. That's actually true with our entire personality. In those first moments of waking, it's not there. And then we remember to pull it on. This is who I am. This is what I think. This is how I feel. I'm remembering after my father died, really my first big death, I would wake up in the morning and feel fine for a few seconds until I remembered, oof, my father died. So let us come home to that moment or that process, that beingness, which is there before the thinking, before remembering a past or creating a future. Here, now, with the temperature of the body here and there, with the sounds, and with the breath coming and going. It is mysterious that there is awareness. This awareness is mysterious. Where does it come from? Does it have a location? There is a popular modern idea that, oh, this awareness is in my brain, somewhere just behind my eyes. Is that true? Or is it more true that awareness arises with each object that arises? There's a sound and there's a moment of hearing consciousness. There's a breath and there's a moment of breathing consciousness, of body awareness. And we become as intimate as we possibly can with the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. And thoughts become more obvious. Emotions become more obvious. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. every time the mind wanders. The conditions are created for the re-emergence of mindfulness. This coming and going of presence, of awakeness, is like ocean waves caressing the shore. When one leaves and dissipates, it's gone. And there are behind it thousands more rolling in. And so our awakening becomes inexorable. We start noticing what's happening more and more frequently during the day, during all activities. And it rests upon the simplicity of just sitting here. With it, with each breath in, we reconfirm our intimate connection with everything that lives. We somehow oddly experience ourselves as separate from nature. This is something that happens in the mind. Ever so tenderly, we observe the stories that happen in the mind. The great story of I am. I am this, I am that, I am not this, I am not that. I am this emotion, I am this body. And what is it that we really have or are? Moments of awakeness, aware of the body, aware of the liking and disliking that comes from being sense doors in contact with their objects, aware of the stories of the mind, the thoughts, the mental formations. Aware of the phenomena that occur. And it seems as though we have the capacity to create phenomena, to create mental formations, thoughts, images. So please let us conjure up some moment in your life when you felt very loved and loving. To do this, I remember times holding infants. Or a time sitting, patting my dog and having lots of time. Or you can remember a relationship with someone, a human, that's a moment in that perhaps even when love was particularly poignant. When we imagine this or remember it, it fires the same synapses, the same neural pathways as the event itself. So we conjure up a memory, a thought of being loving and loved. Maybe let a small smile come at the corners of your mouth. Feel what that is like. And then think a kind, loving thought toward yourself. Maybe imagine holding yourself as a baby, as a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old. What is it that you've always wanted to hear? I'm so glad you came. I love you just as you are. I promise I won't abandon you. Or simply, I love you, with your name at the end. I love you. And if this is difficult, which sometimes it is for some people, make room for that difficulty. Love that difficulty. I love you. And think now of a beloved friend, a mentor, a teacher, a partner. Take this same energy and wish them well. If you know how they suffer, acknowledge that. Wish them well. May your relationship struggles be diminished. May you find peace. May you remember your true great nature. And let us extend this now to some neutral person, someone you don't know well. You might even, if you wanted, let your eyes open a little and pick someone on the screen you don't know and wish this person well. May whatever you're going to face today become an interesting unfolding. Recognize that all the events of today will come and then disappear. May you be at ease. And extending now a big jump to all beings. To our brothers and sisters and friends of the air, the earth, the waters, those who live in the trees themselves, human beings, bird beings, animal beings, fish beings, worm beings, whale beings, possum beings. May all of us who spring into life and then pass away remember our true great nature. Please now, bringing awareness to your eyes, the place in the universe that you think of as your eyes. And then maybe let a little stretch happen. And then be aware of opening the eyes, noticing the effort that's required to open the eyes. I always feel saner after more integrated somehow, more present. After sitting for a little while with you, I have one announcement, my familiar announcement, that if these gatherings are supportive of you in your life, please consider supporting the Portland Insight Meditation community. That's one thing I almost always forget to say. I think it's a bit of denial, which is that if you don't have a will, it's time to do one. And when it's time to do that, it's time to remember where to bequeath your assets. And an end-of-life gift to PIMC can be incredibly useful to people, and will continue giving for a long time after you're gone. Same with advance directives. If you don't have an advance directive, someone's going to really struggle with what choices to make for you. And often, if you don't make them yourself, they make bad choices. Let's keep her alive at all costs for as long as we can, because I can't bear the pain of her passing. So, and Alicia, if you were willing to make the announcement you said you would, that'd be great.
Well, good morning, Robert. Good morning, everyone. Well, I'll echo Robert here a little bit to say that if these morning meditations are supportive of you, then please do remember to go to the GoFundMe campaign website, where we have a campaign to raise funds for a remote broadcasting center that will support all of the broadcasts that Robert thank you, Robert, now currently does from his tent, but it will be from a year-round weather sound shelter that also provides a secure place for all of the technology that he uses in order to do these broadcasts on a daily basis. So we are almost halfway there, which is exciting. The campaign continues, so please, if you're able, I invite you to contribute to the campaign as well as to the ongoing operations of PIMC. And I will go ahead and post the campaign website again to chat, and my email address in case anybody would like to get in touch with me. So thank you, everyone, for contributing. The campaign continues.
Thank you, Alicia. The electrician is coming today, so I'm braced for the reality of that. And I want to share I have a little dharmat here. We're gardening. We're creating a garden. We are an active element in the universe. And one of the places we can really have an impact is on this that we think of as our own mind. And these 7 beautiful blue rectangles, I guess they are the 7 enlightenment factors. And we hear again and again and again about cultivate mindfulness, be awake, be awake. And the reason for that is that all the other, these are the wholesome mental factors, they all come along with mindfulness. They're attached somehow. And so this one, not so much talked about, curiosity about what's happening. It's like, what's happening in my mind? I just woke up. What's the mood that's present? Or I just got this angry email and I'm feeling like this. How interesting. What's that setting off in me? And this really persistence shows in a couple of places. One is when you're sitting in meditation, the effort and the persistence. I'm going to sit here for half an hour. I'm going to sit here for an hour, and during that time, I'm going to come back again and again and again to my chosen object. As we practice this, we start experiencing rapture and joy. And rapture are those subtle sensations in the body. I get them sometimes when I see a parent being particularly loving to a child, or I see a beautiful sunset or something. There's this flush through the body of pleasure, and meditation can bring that about. We also, simultaneously with practicing these, we're practicing concentration. We're developing the capacity of the mind to choose one object and then stay there. And then when we sit through, when we sit through and live through the pleasures and pains of our life, and we come more and more into the ability to stay mindful, curious, and awake to the pleasant and the unpleasant, we develop equanimity. Quite developable. These are all, my garden is going nuts with growing right now, and these are all growable. And tranquility is that lovely experience, like a tranquil lake, when the mind is just calm. And that also is incredibly cultivable. So that's my little, I hope, encouraging talk about farming the human mind so that it will give you the fruits you want. So with that, I want to open it up to you and see how you're doing. Do you have any questions? Would you like some support in some way?
Robert, I had something I wanted to say.
Yes, good morning.
The poetry.
Yeah.
I will have to say that when I was a child, I think we had to memorize poems in grade school. It wasn't so bad, really. Somebody else picked them for us. And maybe on rare occasion, I've been interested in a particular poem. But the poems that you're reading, I mean, I don't know where they're coming from, but part of me wants to sort of write them down to capture them, to save them for some other time, which I've done so far. I know I can sort of look them up on YouTube or something, but I've really been enjoying the poems, and particularly that you read them twice. That has made such a difference. I don't realize on the first time through that I need to hear it a second time, but when I've heard it a second time, sometimes I'm thinking maybe I need to hear it a third time. Thank you.
I have an idea, Jim. Pick a poem that you like. Read it slowly 15 times. See what that does. See what that.
Silently?
Oh, whatever, however you wish. Yeah. Pause for 5 minutes between the reading. I think it doesn't matter. I said this before in this morning broadcast. Many years ago, I helped teach a retreat in Europe, and one of the women there was an artist who had art in the Kunst, the big museum in Amsterdam. And after the retreat, she said, "You come with me." I was in Amsterdam. She said, "You come with me to the museum, and I'll show you how to look at art." And we met on the steps outside, and she blindfolded me. And she took me inside and put me in front of a Rembrandt painting, took off my blindfold and said, "All you do for the next half hour is seeing. When your mind wanders, come back to seeing." After half an hour, she came back, and I'd had quite an experience with that painting. As I speak of it, it's here now. And she blindfolded me, took me to a large Vermeer canvas, and said, "I'll be back in half an hour." Same instructions. And then she came back and blindfolded me and took me out of the museum and said, "That's as much art as you should ever look at in one day." And I predict, if you take an hour with a poem, that poem will change you and you will never forget it. Because we only experience things very superficially, but when we stay with it's the same as the face of one's beloved. If you spend an hour quietly looking at a picture of your wife or someone, I do this with my dog now. He's 14 and he's in good health, but I know his time is quite limited. I spend at least 5 minutes every day just patting him and looking at him. He goes so beautifully unconscious. He loves it. But I just look at him and see him. That's a wonderful application of meditation. When the mind wanders, come back. Okay, thank you. I was just reminded that I forgot one of the announcements. The PIMC exploration into racial consciousness is beginning this evening. I'll see if I can find the link, and you could still join if you want. You could also find it on the PIMC website on the front page. We will be reading very carefully and sharing about the book Me and White Supremacy. And I've been listening to internet audio and watching videos, and it's such an interesting topic. I had no idea how abysmally ignorant I am, and it keeps growing. It's so fascinating, and I'm just enamored of it. What's her name? Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility. She's one of the best speakers I've ever heard, and she's speaking about me and herself and all of us. So I encourage you, if this topic touches you at all, I highly encourage you to join us in reading that book, because it's going to be very interesting. I think the link just magically appeared on the chat. Thanks, Deb. So,
Robert, just a reminder that all you have to do, there's no cost or anything, but if you register the link, you'll get access to the Zoom, and we just want to figure out how many people are going to be there.
Yeah, great. There is no cost, and there will be an opportunity to make donations to support the center. All right, anybody else?
Good morning, Robert. Jessica here.
Hello, Jessica.
I just wanted to check in because I had one of my special opportunities for learning yesterday where just that lovely inner voice of mine that came up and had to share all the horrible ways I've failed in life and failed on so many fronts. And it was interesting because I could see it coming up. I knew I had some little physical hints at it during the day, and then I had my full-blown sit down, cry it out, see it, be with it. And it was interesting though, because later on I was reading, and I have huge thanks to Tiffany. She's been doing some correspondence with people interested in the book group, and she shared a link to a Pema Chodron piece. And the takeaway that I've had so often from this, and also from some things you've shared with me, is around really turning towards that ugliness, if you will, those voices that come up and really beat us up, and really trying to learn with it and embrace it. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of good space to see it as other in a way, and to it's obviously a voice about me, it's one of my stories, but I can have some distance when it's happening, so I'm not quite as consumed. But I still I don't think I've gotten to a place yet where I feel like, woohoo, great enlightenment. I'm more like, woof, glad that's over. So there's a part of me that feels like I'm still missing a real opportunity. And I just didn't know if you could speak to that some. Thank you.
On Saturday morning, I woke up, made my coffee, sat on the couch, felt really crappy. Fatigue, no broadcast to distract me or bring me into a more pleasant state. And I just lay down on the couch and was there for a couple or 3 hours, just being aware of the physical sensations, but also that sense of hopelessness, despair, pointlessness, that stuff, and it was really fine practice. It didn't get rid of it, but what it did was to move it to a place of being an object. I mean, you're 95% of the way home on those experiences, because that's the most powerful thing we can do, which is to perceive it for what it is. It's these experiences come. You can see my hands. I'm over here. There's this vast array of causes and conditions that are our past: physical, emotional, psychological, speaking, etc. And they come to flower in a particular moment, and here they are. We're in that moment. There's usually a desire to get rid of it. It's like, I don't want it. And observing that is really useful. And then, because these states come into being, and you have that self-hatred state, and so to when that comes up, I mean, that is so common in our culture. It's not true in every culture, but to acknowledge that that's there, and that what is it? It's thoughts, it's memories, it's a feeling in the body, it's a fear that it's going to continue on forever. There's an interpretation that this is the real me. I've been really found out now, finally, and and to there's nothing more powerful than to mindfully perceive that. Now, there is another piece, which is the realm of therapy and healing, which would be maybe to go into that, and maybe if there's anger there, to use muscles and beat on something to be angry, or if there are tears, to consciously cry them out, or if there's journaling to do. There is work to do to release some of the old energy in it. But even when that work is really all done, these states will still come along, and they come along, and then we can watch them dissipate as well. So you're really on the right. I mean, that's as best I understand it. As awful as those states are, they do become less and less painful. And my guess is, they used to take you down, right? You used to go down, and in my case, I smoked marijuana for a decade, because I couldn't tolerate the darkness that was there beneath it. And then when I was able to stop and start facing that, then the real healing began.
Yeah, no, they did take me down far longer and deeper. I can see that. I can see a huge difference there.
Right.
But thank you. That's very, very reassuring. And yeah, no, I do feel like I've made a lot of progress. So I just wanted to check in, because it's always helpful to know maybe I haven't completely gone on a hard left.
And remember the piece about noticing the aversion and fear of it, because that locks it in place. I don't want to be feeling this. What's wrong with me? Why am I still feeling this? Blah, blah, blah. Incidentally, the garden that you did such an incredible job of pruning and cleaning up is just gorgeous right now. Everything is just sparkling. So thank you. And great job on my hedge. My hedge, he said, with ownership. Thank you. Mm-hmm. One more thing about that. How many people do you know, extending this to everybody, how many people do you know who, when they're feeling bad or having some kind of a psychological inner attack, actually will sit down and turn toward it and open into it? That is not a common phenomenon. That's heroism. You know, I've never done this in a large scale. I think I'll do it this way. I have a blog. I don't use it much. And you find it this way. You go portlandinsight.org/blog. I will post there a couple of links, 3 links. And they are links to audio of a retreat exercise I did at Brighton Bush Hot Springs some years ago. And the exercise, first off, I read a book. I had a children's book that I read to people. It's The Ugly Duckling. And then we do an exercise in which people took some time. I did a guided meditation on self-hatred. And then people took some time to write down on a sheet of paper the things that they noticed their mind saying about hatred of them. And then we folded them all up and put them in a basket. And then we passed it around the room and everybody picked out a sheet. And then we went around the room meditatively, lovingly, respectfully, and each person read someone else's self-hating statements. The first time I did this, I was terrified because we got into it, and the mood in the room just kept getting deeper and darker and heavier. And I thought, oh my God, I've created, everyone's going to kill themselves at the end of this. It's a terrible mistake, but we got through it, and then we did a very simple exercise of thinking of positive characters about ourselves, and the room lit up into such compassion. And it's very interesting because to hear the things that other people that other people's minds are saying to them it's very compassion building. This is a scourge. I mean, this is a pandemic of massive proportions that we walk around thinking ill of ourselves. So I'll put them up today. I'll do that right after we get off the broadcast. So you could go there, portlandinsight.org/blog, and you'll find the links there. Funny, I'm just a little hesitant to put it on the listserv for some reason. So.
Hi, Robert. It's Michael.
Michael. Hi.
Dominate the day, but
hi.
I wanted to say something about that exercise you did, and I can't remember if I shared this before when it's come up on these Zoom sessions or not. But Jessica and I did that with you at a retreat a couple of years ago.
Mm.
It was right before the end of the retreat, and as we were leaving the retreat that day, we were talking about that exercise, and we were sure that we knew exactly which ones each other had written. Read. And in fact, we were both completely wrong. Neither of us was right. And what that showed us, though, was that universality and the commonality of these descriptions, the negative self-images that so many of us hold. Because we were sure that in a list of 5 different negatives, we knew that, oh, those 5 were absolutely what you think of yourself. And it wasn't true. And so it was really helpful to have that reaction and that realization. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Michael. I have a fantasy, I've had this for a long time, a fantasy that wouldn't it be an incredible world if we all had a balloon above our heads that displayed exactly what we were thinking and feeling? I mean, it would be embarrassing, and I think it would create incredible compassion. I mean, just to take a leap here, what if there's this person who lives in the White House, and if we could see what's really happening in that tortured heart, we'd be smitten with compassion. I mean, we'd probably be bawling our eyes out, because that terribly wounded child who is desperately trying to be tough, we would see. We would see also we needed to not let it continue to happen. But we're all the walking wounded. I mean, more than walking, we're hobbling back from the front on World War I, making our lives work to some degree, but we're all suffering so much. Well, it's after 8 already. Goes fast. Anybody else? Is there someone sitting with something that you'd really like to unload here, share, question?
Hi, Robert.
I hear a voice.
Peter,
Hello, Peter.
can you see me?
I can see you well.
Hi, Sangha. I'm used to sitting on things, so I haven't really spoken up in a long time here, but I've been regularly attending. Today, I heard about, I think it was yesterday, I'll try to relate what happened. I heard about a march that went from my high school, where we moved here when I was in high school, and the march went from my high school, Jefferson, down to Alberta Park and then back. And in the course of the march, I think when they came back, the statue of Jefferson statue was torn down, and just like these Confederate statues. And I guess I've always sort of prided myself on being, with a group that was integrated sort of before a lot of the racial strife. I graduated in '67, so it was kind of a golden time, I think. But also to realize that sort of at the core of this culture is this rotten slave-owning privileged class, and that it just hit me that this is really part of our healing, is to confront these things. So wanted to share that. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Most people never in their lifetime show any interest or willingness to look at how their history has affected them. I have the really incredible privilege. I didn't know that it would happen again, but I went searching about a year ago to find a therapist, and I found somebody. This fellow's name is David Bice. He's about 6 or 7 years older than me. Nice fellow, wise psychologist. And he does basically one thing with me. He listens, which is great. But he remembers the story of my childhood and a few of the struggles, the traumas that I've gone through in my lifetime. And I will be talking about the issues that I'm working with now. It's so good to have a place to just unburden myself like that. And inevitably, what really helps me is a voice from the outside saying, well, of course you're reacting like that. Of course those are the emotions and feelings and perceptions that are arising. How could it be any otherwise given what happened in that first 5 years of your life? That those conditionings are there. And they're not who I am. They're not definitive of my person. There's been so much growth and opening and development of more aspects of this living process. And the same is true for a nation, that we have a living history. It's alive and well in all of our psyches. Or maybe it's alive and not so well. There are parts of it that are extraordinary. I'm an immigrant. I came here from Canada and from the world after Canada, and then I came here, and we hold these truths to be self-evident stuff, and the American there's something luminous and beautiful about the American experiment, and there's something very dark there at the core. And so this is a time of awakening to that for some of us, and I hope enough in the culture that things will really change. But it's very difficult to do, just as it's very difficult to look into our own childhood and to feel the sadness that's there, and also to feel the brilliance and the beauty and the intelligence and the compassion that got buried. To open that up and to become more of who we are. But it's challenging. It takes a lot of support and time, lots of meditation. And so the same is true with the culture and with our human history. Our human history is not so pretty in so many ways. And it's there's Brahms and there's such beauty. So I just shared that. I think it's a good thing to have shared. And then there's a little voice that says, and he natters on and on. It's like, well, that was too much, or you're going on. You went on too long. Self-indulgent, self-revelatory, and no matter when, every time I finish one of these broadcasts, I go in the house and Jennifer has some coffee left over, and she said, "How did it go?" And I say, "Well, I think it went really well. I think it was good." And then there's this little nagging, "Are you sure?" That's just the personality. It's just it's a remnant that, and it's not a bad thing. I think if one doesn't have that, one can get inflated and go down some very bad paths. The key, I think, is to get to the place where we don't go down, as I said just before. I don't want to spend days depressed and self-hating. There were enough of those in my life. little wave of sadness. There were plenty of those. So now I'd like to, when that kind of stuff comes along, to see it for what it is, which is mental formations and ideas and thoughts and emotions. And they're not personal. They're the weather. So anybody else? We need to end soon, but maybe there's another person or two who'd like to share. iPhone. Oh, it's back to Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Robert and KB, how are you?
Hello, KB.
Oh, I miss you so. It's so nice to see your face, and I just want to tell you personally, wow, you're helping me a lot. So don't, if you ever have a little nagging feeling like that, I want you to remember that I said that.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say I have such trouble. I can't crack this ceiling, but it's not really a ceiling, it's a floor. When I get down in there, I wrestle around and then I just don't feel like I'm making anything better. I just feel like I'm working myself up, and I can't seem to want to stay, like you said, because I don't know how to fix it or work it or put it somewhere or do what I don't know what to do with it when I get down in there. I'm confused.
Well, there are, of course, there are some other tools. There's loving kindness practice, and there's concentration practice, and sometimes when we get mired in something, when we get caught in, and I know I've said this to you before, sometimes I in my life have needed a hand to hold. That the heavy darkness has been so great that I needed another human to assist me. And so in this moment, one thing you might try is don't keep going in. If it's not opening up into insight and ease, then work with putting a lid on it. Use a mantra: "May I be happy, may all beings be happy," or some other that comes to you. Use that and actually suppress this heaviness, and see if that works. Or go for a run, or get exercise, or we can't always just go sit in the middle of it. That happens when we have some. That happens when we're strong enough and clear enough.
Okay, thank you.
And it's damn hard.
Especially in these times, Robert. It's just everywhere you turn, there's no. This is the only place I can turn where I get ease in the whole world right now.
Yeah. Let's talk sometime soon.
Okay.
Well, friends, time to go, I think. Anybody bursting? Stephanie, are you here? I haven't seen you this morning. All right. Let us, in that case, join our voices together in the dial tone of the universe, the sound Om. And we'll do it for maybe 30 seconds or so, and then there will be a gong. Let me get my gong set. Doom, doom, doom. All right. Om vibrates in the heart and the crown of the head. May all beings share in the merits of our practice. Om. Aum. 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 Om. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a fine day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube.